Hey everybody, today we're talking the Secret Invasion Disney Plus show. Hey everybody and welcome back to BK's Bullets. As always, I'm your host, Brent, and today we're talking about Secret Invasion on Disney Plus. Not Secret Invasion, the comic book, but the adaptation of this awesome storyline that somehow ended up in a 6-episode barrage of boredom that we now call Secret Invasion. I didn't review these episode to episode. It became clear a couple of Disney Plus shows back that I didn't really need to. I think it was during She-Hulk. I did the first couple, and it was just kind of like, well, there's really not much to talk about here in these later shows. There was certainly a lot to talk about during WandaVision and Captain America and the Winter Soldier, or Falcon Winter Soldier, however you want to call those first two shows, because those were exciting. Those were new. They were exciting. They had things to say. They had things going on. And now that we're on number 5 or 6 or 7 Disney Plus shows in, it's very clear that these kind of feel like filler issues of a comic book. The Secret Invasion storyline is a banger of a storyline. This was awesome to read in single issues when it came out. It is still awesome to read today. It was all set up in Brian Michael Bendis' New Avengers run, and there was one issue where Elektra was fighting with the Hand against the Invaders. There's my puppy, and she got killed. And then you found out at the final end of that issue, on the final page, that Elektra was a Skrull. This was out of nowhere. There were no hints placed or anything like that. It was just a real shock to the system that Elektra was a Skrull. And then they were like, hey, guess what's coming? Secret Invasion. Boom, here you go. You had a little bit more build-up, but mainly everything happens in this main book. And this main book is awesome. Mainly because you can do stuff in comic books you can't do on television, I think still is the rule of the day. Even with somehow a $221 million budget on this 6-episode Disney Plus show. I don't know where it went, that's for damn sure. But Secret Invasion has things like this, where you have Skrulls fighting the Marvel heroes, the entire Marvel Universe. Now I know we're not getting that in a Disney Plus show, but we didn't even get near enough of that, or even close to it. Also, there's no big moments. There were so many big moments in the Secret Invasion book. What I love most of all was this moment here. We had our heroes go to the Savage Land to find what they thought was to be the Skrull home base, only to be confronted with versions of themselves. And then you had the heroes trying to figure out who's who, which one is the real one, and for how long, because some of these characters had been gone a long time. Here's the original Wolverine in his original costume. Is he a Skrull? Is the other Wolverine a Skrull down here? I don't know. We had to figure it out. You had Captain America, who was dead at the time. Is he a Skrull? I don't know. We have to figure it out. Thor had recently come back from the dead, or been killed and been resurrected as a clone, a clone in Civil War, some sort of android thing. Here's Thor. Is that the real Thor? How did that work? He's an Asgardian god. People like Spider-Man, who everybody knows and loves. Is he a Skrull? I don't know. We got to find out. Iron Man, you had Mockingbird in here, Jessica Jones in her superhero days, and it was just this really confusing moment of, wait, who's a Skrull, who's real, what is really going on? Yeah, this one right here. This is, what issue is this? This is number 4? Yeah, number 2. Issue number 2. My main gripe with the Disney Plus show, aside from what, obviously nobody read the comic book, and there were even interviews with, I don't know if it was the writer or director, saying he was told not to read the comic book. But I know you can't do all these things in the show. It's limiting because of your cast, because of your budget, contracts, shooting schedules, whatever. Okay, I get it. But there were no moments like this where it was like, you're the Skrull. No, you're the Skrull. No, you're the Skrull. And that was the most fun thing about Secret Invasion at the time, was having those funny arguments of who's who, or even things like that. You had, the main thing you had here, the only person really being replaced that, oh man, The only person you had really being replaced that the audience cared about was Rhodey, Colonel James Rhodes, or War Machine, and how long he'd been that. Well, it's not made apparent in the show, but he's in like a hospital dressing gown. So I'm guessing at some point when he got injured in Captain America 3, he went down for the count. Is it somewhere in Infinity War or Endgame? I don't remember. And I guess we will find out in the Armor Wars movie that character is getting. But you didn't even have like a bunch of big battles with the heroes versus the Skrulls. It didn't feel like an invasion. There was no moment here, like there's a moment here, which is another lovely moment where the Skrulls come out and they literally tell us that they are everywhere and no one can be trusted. There was no feeling of, I can't trust anyone, because we were following Nick Fury and he knew who he could trust, and we knew that who the bad guy was in Gravik and other things like that. And it was just like, man, I really wish there were moments of tension in this show, where this show really just felt like a 6-episode Nick Fury series that, lost its way from the very beginning. So I can't recommend this show to anybody. I would say if you really enjoyed this, good for you. I think it fell off the wagon very, very early on. I think the first episode was kind of interesting. The second, not so much. And then it was clear by the fourth, it was like, okay, this is going nowhere. Episode 5 was a little lame. You even had the moment where Nick Fury got his new costume, in terms of like his costume is a trench coat, and he got a new hat. And turns out, the Fury we saw most of this episode wasn't even Nick Fury. It was Gaia, Emilia Clarke from Game of Thrones, who is now the last remaining Super Skrull, and is somehow on our side. Like, the whole thing for the Skrulls, I feel like they got fundamentally wrong in the Captain Marvel movie, and instead of correcting that mistake in turning Talos, who was an interesting character with an interesting actor playing him, instead of turning Talos against Nick Fury, which would have been a more, I think, heartstring pulling event, you have this character Gravik, who we've never seen before, and instead you kill Talos and release that actor from his contract, instead of actually making Talos or Talos, how they called him, Ben Mendelsohn, that actor, be the guy who was turning against Fury because he felt betrayed because Fury never kept his promise. That would have been a more compelling story, honestly. And have a father-daughter team teaming up against Fury, who has no children of his own, no legacy for him to build off of. The whole thing about Fury being up in space, we still don't know what the hell's going on up there. Seems like the Marvels is going to kind of explain that. I don't know, or even a reason why it should. It just feels very detached. This series feels very detached from the rest of the Marvel Universe. A lot of them do, honestly, but this one was the one that we were all kind of really excited about, because the Secret Invasion book, these 8 issues here from 2008 or 9, was awesome. And what we got in the Disney Plus show was not awesome. And I know some people might say, Brent, you're being unfair of what they can do in a TV show or a movie versus what they can do in the comics. And to you, I say, yes, it's a little unfair. However, I would comment back with, at least with Marvel, you can just look back at Civil War. Civil War was Civil War. You had the 2 groups of heroes battling each other. No, it wasn't as expansive because we didn't have all the heroes introduced, like we do now. There's, multitudes more heroes introduced with these Disney Plus shows and as we're entering a new phase. But Civil War had 2 main groups of heroes battling over basically superhero registration. They made it a little bit more personal with Winter Soldier and things like that. But at the end of the day, you still had the Russo brothers mimicking iconic shots from that comic book drawn by Steve McNiven, and it delivered on the promise of a rift between the heroes, a major disagreement, and a battle between them that ultimately, severed their relationships forever. Because you had, at the end of Endgame, Captain America disappear into the time and age out, in old age. He's older than Biden now. And you had Tony Stark die at the end of Endgame. So they never really reconciled per se. They teamed up again, but did they reconcile? Did they really reconcile over their differences? I don't know. And that shift there also too with the Sokovia Accords never really played out. So It's a lot of things being skipped over here from movie to movie, adaptation to adaptation. But I would just point to Civil War as being an adaptation, a better adaptation than this one, because it had the main theme of the disagreement between the heroes and the battle. The main theme of the Secret Invasion is that the invasion's already here. It's already done. And there was a big reveal to everybody that the invasion was done and that Skrulls were everywhere. And that you didn't know if your neighbor was a Skrull or if your boss was a Skrull. Or hell, even if your kid was a Skrull. And that was something that they hammered home throughout the series and even in like the ads and stuff like that. Here, this Secret Invasion was setting up the invasion, setting up everything. Yeah, there's a million Skrulls, but we didn't really see them. They never manifested. There was no big mask-off moment. The only thing you really got was the end of this 6th episode where the president says, "Get the hell off my planet." Like, big fucking deal. So it seems now is maybe the setup for the mask-off moment. But Skrulls are on their heels for reasons, and the Kree want to have peace with the Skrulls. If I was the Kree, I wouldn't want peace. If I am eradicating my enemy and you're telling me there's only 1 million of them left on Earth, I am coming to Earth and I'm going to actually finish eradicating them if they're my sworn enemy. What is the point in making peace with somebody who doesn't have any threat to you anymore? So that was really, kind of this really weird thing at the end of this episode. There's just so much weirdness, and it's just like you can tell that whoever's producing, writing, directing the series didn't read Secret Invasion and actually listen to Kevin Feige because they didn't even get what the entire thing was about. Like, you know, this theme of who do you trust? Yeah, you can have an executive tell you it, but until you read it for yourself and see what Bendis was trying to do and the scale of the event, like, there was no scale here or anything like that. And for $212 million, I certainly didn't see any scale. Felt like maybe the majority of the salary went to executives or something like that, or, you know, I'm sure Nick Fury got a hell of a payday, Samuel L. Jackson, but I don't know where anybody else came from. Not to even mention Kobe Smulders. Poor Kobe Smulders just got done away with at the very beginning of the first episode, tossed aside like a rag doll when she was actually a character who probably could have assisted Fury this whole season and then turned out to be a Skrull. Oh my, wouldn't that have been a surprise? A big twist, you know, maybe people would have seen it coming or not, but at least it would have added some more drama or gravitas, somebody else for Nick Fury to bounce off of. You know, we've seen him and Kobe Smulders team up for so long that it's like, I want to see more of that. And they were doing that in the Far From Home, which turned out to be 2 Skrulls. So where's all that coming from? It's just, it did so many characters bad. It did Nick Fury bad. It did Maria Hill bad. I feel like Rhodey got the short shrift here because now, I mean, it does that thing that Skrulls are supposed to do, like you don't trust him anymore, but he was so in your face, and you knew he was bad the whole time. He never really felt like himself, or, you know, I don't know, it just didn't feel the same. Like, so you're telling me that Rhodey, who gave Falcon the speech in Falcon and Winter Soldier in that show, is now a Skrull also? So there's so many things that, I mean, they're going to get picked apart to death from all these things going back. There's so many little incongruities, and the nice thing about the real Secret Invasion was like, yeah, they knew everything about you and they seamlessly felt, you know, tricked you. And I don't really feel like they did that here or with Rhodey, nor did they try and do that with anybody else. And I feel like that's a really big missed opportunity with what could have been an awesome movie or an awesome miniseries if you really spent the time with the text and absorbed the material instead of, you know, oh, don't read it, it's just a comic book. Like, is that what we've come to now, where the leaders of the Marvel Universe are just saying, oh, it's just comic books, you don't have to read it, we're going to give you the story and we're going to do our own thing. And now are we looking down our noses at the things that we once held so dear because we're so far into our careers or so far into our salaries? Like, pay your fucking writers, dude. If you had told your writer to actually read the book, they might have actually thought of something better, and, you know, or if they'd been paid correctly, maybe they would have given a shit and said, you know what, forget that, I'm going to read the book anyway, and actually written you a better story, and we wouldn't be here in 2023 me telling you or anybody else at Disney Plus that these Marvel shows are now crap. I'm no longer excited to watch them anymore. We've had just a cascading amount of disappointment. And I'm not saying everyone was bad. I'm not dishing Miss Marvel. That was disappointing. She-Hulk was disappointing. And I was disappointed in both of those shows, being the most recent ones, I believe, for different reasons. I was also disappointed in Moon Knight, a show which I did kind of like. So mostly for storytelling. Like all those for me needed a whole lot more care in their storytelling than what we got here. And that's the same thing with Secret Invasion. So I'm saying Marvel is sucking on these Disney Plus shows because of the storytelling faults, not because of the other people saying, oh, the woke bullshit, whatever. That's nonsense. It's the storytelling. The storytelling is bad. Get your storytelling right. And the only way you do that is to pay writers. Go SAG-AFTRA. So yeah, fuck the show. I'm so disappointed. Like, I was never excited to watch it. I was almost felt not like a chore. I wasn't hate watching it, but it was just like, oh yeah, I guess I should watch it. I guess I should watch it. And even talking with some of my friends online, the Comic Timing Podcast crew, or some guys I had met that I had over at the house on Sunday, even they are not watching it. Like, they don't feel motivated to watch it. So something is wrong with Marvel that we need to fix, whether it's the movies or the Disney Plus shows or both. But we're losing the audience. We're losing the core audience that we had with Infinity War and Endgame, and we need to pull back and we need to refocus on the storytelling. I think if the storytelling was good and people were talking about it week to week, it wouldn't matter how much content there was. But if you're pulling back because the storytelling's bad and you keep it bad, it's going to be bad. Want it bad, get it bad. So that's my critique. I think I'm done bagging on Disney Plus and Marvel and Secret Invasion. I'm just saying, if you're disappointed in this show, go pick up the event. And you're going to have a much better time. As always, the book was always better. So thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you thought of Secret Invasion down below in the comments. We'll see you guys next time in the Funny Pages.